Okay, my friends, Roger once again, Mudfossil University, going directly for the throat. Well, why not? Let's start right at the heart of the matter. Well, what is the heart of the matter? The speed of light. Well, why is that so important? Well, because everything is based around Einstein and Bohr and all these people that made up all these rules and constraints based around the speed of light. Light, no matter how high or low in energy, always moves at the speed of light. Same speed. You can't go faster, you can't, we know we can go slower. So this is absolute nonsense. So this is where I'm going with this. It's crazy. So long as it's traveling through the vacuum of empty space. Now, space is not empty either. It's ridiculous. All the electrons and particles are flowing out. They call it the solar wind. It's insanity what they do, what they say. And this was just a couple of years ago. I think they're starting to come around a little bit, but most of this is due to my research. I'm not kidding you. I will take credit for it. I don't care. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me. In 2016, I posted to everybody in the world, including the University of Geneva, CERN, ESA, JPL, NASA, Fermilab, every single university, that I had exceeded the speed of light, and I had split light, and I had detected dark matter, and I showed them this. So let's get a little deeper. Light speed, if I can exceed the speed of light, I don't care if it's in a vacuum or not, if I can accelerate it, I just destroyed Einstein, which we did. Now, there is obviously frustration in my voice because I contact people every single day that are making statements about dark matter and all these things and black holes and all this. I know every little detail about that. Yes, exactly, I do, because of electron flood theory. If you want to contest what I am saying, contest it. Come to me, because I have gone to you and no one will respond. Now, everybody that knows my work, for 10 years, well, for 50 years, I've been trying to prove that the dipole nature, well, that the nucleus of all atoms is a dipole. It's not just a big positive. Absolutely not. It's impossible. And I've shown that 10,000 times. Anybody's been following me, seen this picture 10,000 times probably. This is the speed of light. And light presents a wave because the particle, which is this little tiny particle, is way back here, but it has a magnetic field surrounding it, concusses with all the other magnetic particles, and every single thing that exists is made of electrons, so they all have a magnetic field around them. Every electron does. And its dark matter pulls that electron towards it. That's why you see them in these little four bangers, which are light. We exceeded the speed it's going here. There's no question. Even a 10-year-old, a 5-year-old, a 3-year-old can see that. And if a physicist tells me that's not true, then it's not a physicist, it's not a scientist, because they will walk away. They'll say it's not true and they walk away. They don't say it's not true because of this, this, and this. No, we started with laser light. That is laser light. And I just showed you it says laser, no matter what it is, it's a travel same speed. No, absolutely not. Totally wrong. That's the particle which I have showed you here. There is the particle. And you never see that particle ever until it concusses. Then it becomes its muon and its electron neutrino. And then at the Venturi, it explodes and they actually separate. The black balls are all around the outside and the white showers come through exactly as CERN requires to show a muon, which is the black balls, and the white is the electron showers coming from the two attached particles, which were the muon black and the white electron neutrino. When they concuss, though, they separate. CERN does it by crashing them head on, but they have billions, literally hundreds of billions of these particles. We're using little four bangers, so we can see exactly what we have. CERN has just digging through trash and coming up and seeing these particles and say, ooh, look at that, isn't that something? Now, you notice I show the actual experiment results, and they show little doodles. And this is the muon and the muon neutrino coming in, which was the black and white balls attached together. When they concuss, they create Cherenkov radiation, and the white ball turns into showers, as we see, and the black ball surrounds it and reattaches later. It's exactly what they're looking for. This is what I presented to every university, every big research institute, literally every single one of them. And I went to the University of Geneva as a student for particle physics way back then to confront them, literally, to say, look at my research. And they said, ooh, this is interesting. We'll follow you on Facebook. And that was the end of that with the University of Geneva. And not a single other one ever responded. Nobody will respond. They just don't want to even talk about it because I am not part of that group. And they still wouldn't, they will destroy anybody that comes up with something that interferes with their status, is really what it boils down to. And this is the muon. And that is the electron neutrino. Muon neutrino, electron neutrino. When they concuss, the muon stays exactly the same. The black ball never changes. And that's exactly what CERN says. And the white turns into showers. And the forward leading white glows much more than the back one. But they wobble and spin and so forth. And that is, light does spin. I show all this to everybody. The end of the research was 6 years ago. Well, it is still not ending. I mean, it never ends. But I don't know how to say it, but the presentation of the research was 6 or 7 years ago. And at that point, I had expected some interaction, and it's been 6 or 7 years of zero interaction. Not a single response from any of these people that we take as our educators, and they need to be educated. All right, most people, if you ask them, say, does something hot weigh more than something cold? And they say, oh, no, the hotter one is lighter. No, it's not. It's just exactly opposite. The reason why hot objects are heavier is because E equals mc squared. Well, E does not equal mc squared. That's insanity. Let's just forget that. So they are heavier, though. The reason is because they have more electrons in them. Only the thing that creates heat is excess electrons. When you let your electrons bleed out, they leave, so therefore they have a mass, they have weight, they are matter. Now, E equals m. That's it. Forget the c squared. That's all nonsense. Because light can speed up, it can slow down. The square root of light has nothing to do with it. Or light squared has nothing to do with it whatsoever. The particle itself, which it has weight, we know it has weight. It is a particle, and its concussive value dictates its energy. That's all. That's more energy than that. Case closed. Now, just to expound on that a little bit, when you are dealing in the electronic range where you have extreme electrical energy, push to shove of electrons, you can force conduction. You can actually hit electrons so hard that they force themselves through a medium which will allow them to proceed. Copper, certain metals, yes. Other things are resistive. They say, no, you can't come through this way. Copper says, yeah, go ahead. Light goes through the space, and outer space is not a vacuum, 100% not a vacuum. It's 100% solidly loaded with, not solid, but semi-dense loaded, especially in our region close to the sun. We're just saturated with electrons, photons, particles of every size, solar wind. All that debris is coming at us. There's no question whatsoever how they can possibly keep teaching kids it's a vacuum. It's insanity. All they are doing is saying, if I don't say what I was told to say, I'll lose my job, so I'm just going to say what they told me to say. Right now, it's just complete nonsense. So it has a weight. It can speed up. The temperature is dependent upon how many electrons are in there. That's it. Now, I just expanded. Now I'm going to expand squared. When you add extra electrons into something, the heat increases. But only if the pressure is not diminished, because if there's no pressure to it, the electrons just go away. If you have a tin can that's sealed and you force heat into that, all you're doing is putting electrons in. Those electrons go inside that can, it will explode because they are filling the space in there with these huge magnetic fields. Pow! The can explodes. That is, you have to have the pressurized conditions and then forcing the electrons in. That is what creates heat. That's why you close your windows when you want to turn your heat on. I mean, this is so simple. It's like a 5-year-old can understand this. And they have to make all these doodles to come up with nonsense that just has no meaning whatsoever. Okay, I sent this to the U.S. Department of Energy 4 weeks ago, and I talked about, please contact me. I emailed the same guy at Cornell, and who is he? Well, there's only 4 comments to this. This is the U.S. Department of Energy and Emerging Technology Particle Accelerators. This is very recent. I sent it to him. Listen what he has to say.
A beam of particles is a very useful tool. It can diagnose a disease, destroy a tumor, improve a chip, clean up dirty drinking water, scan containers for suspicious content, and do much more. More than 30,000 particle accelerators, big and small.
Let me just explain it to you. Let's start again, because what did he say? The first words out of his mouth was, to be able to accelerate a particle is a very useful tool. Well, I can do it for like $10, and that's pretty useful if you can do it cheap. Doing what they're doing, I don't think it's useful at all. It's just a enormous waste of money so far.
A beam of particles is a very useful tool. It can diagnose a disease, destroy a tumor, improve a chip, clean up dirty drinking water, scan containers for suspicious content, and do much more. More than 30,000 particle accelerators, big and small, are at work worldwide. Fermilab is a world leader in particle accelerator science and technology.
Don Lincoln and Kirsty Duffy and this guy here won't, not a single one of them will contact me back. And I can do what they're doing very, very inexpensively.
We contribute to the design and construction of large accelerators across the Department of Energy complex and around the world. At Fermilab, we also lead in the design and construction of the instruments that propel particles to higher energies, as well as upgrades to the world's most powerful atom smasher, the Large Hadron Collider.
Let me tell you something. I can do nuclear fission on a tabletop, and I will show you this. There's no reason to accelerate something miles and miles and miles if you can accelerate it in a couple of millimeters.
Another focus area is the design and fabrication of magnets that steer and focus particle beams. We also investigate how to improve the performance of particle accelerators with artificial intelligence and better simulations of particle beam behavior.
All they are is simulations. I am showing you the actual particles.
Our particle accelerator technology even has applications in quantum computing. Our superconducting cavities can store single photons, which we use to enhance existing qubit technology. Particle accelerator technology helps address many of the challenges confronting our nation. The next generation accelerators have the potential to make still greater contributions to our nation's health, economy, and national security.
Now, let me just show you what it can do if they would take the time to pay attention to what I have discovered. Okay, I just made the exactly accurate statement that I can create nuclear fission on a desktop for a couple of $100. That is the wave which has the particle way back here creating that magnetic field in front of it. And when we forced it through a venturi, the particle itself separated from the wave as it accelerated so fast it exceeds the speed of light, way faster than light. Now, what happens here? Every one of those particles, which I showed you before, the black and white box of particles, looks similar to this. At this point, they were just sort of flopping around. You really didn't see anything. You couldn't see anything. As light back here, you don't see any particle. But when it gets down here, you see an actual particle because they begin to stack. Bam, bam, bam. It's a pulsed red laser. Well, where's the nuclear atomic interaction? Well, here it is right here. You see that? That is reverse EMF, electromotive force. That's reverse. This was the wave coming in. Look at the size of it going back. That is increased concussive value hundreds of times, literally. It's created a field around itself now that is just absolutely enormous, which creates energy. Anytime you create a field, you create energy. You see these little jobbers here glowing? Well, what are those? Those are the electrons that are in the air. Those are the electrons that are in the gases. Every particle there is made up of electrons in a ball. That's all there is electrons now. Electron flood theory says protons are replaced by 1,839 electrons. And because they are dipoles, the nature of the nucleus now is a dipole. And it reaches a stable number of electrons. No protons, no neutrons, none of that stuff. They're all electrons. And when they get to a certain number, it becomes very stable. You can have a little, some extra and some under. Those are called isotopes. And that's the only way you can possibly have those, is if they were made out of other particles than protons and neutrons. So forget the protons and neutrons. Absolute insanity. Protons and neutrons, because they're gigantic positives and neutrals, and little bitty tiny negatives out here. First of all, they go, bam! That would be the end of the negative. It was never worked, and that's why this brought me into this realm many, many years ago. Now, you can see that these particles here are being concussed from the reverse spinning. See this? Follow the patterns. You see the lines of concussion? Bam, 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 bam. Every time they hit against other electrons, those electrons glow. And here you see these are more spinning particles just like these. These are more light particles coming this way. But there's so much intensity going back that now you see them. You didn't even see them before. You can't see these things until you make them become intense. And that's why they say, oh, Roger, you're crazy. You can't see electrons. You can't see these kind of things. No little camera can see it. Absolutely they can. No question whatsoever. And it is radiant intensity. If I took an atomic bomb and I put it right here, and I went 100 miles away, way back here, and I looked down and see, could I see that atomic bomb? Hell no. This didn't explode yet. Well, I'm still 100 miles away, and it went off. Could I see the atomic bomb? Yeah. Yeah, you'd see it. And then your eyes would burn out of your head. So what is radiance? Radiance is intensity. How much is it given off? If they just sit there doing nothing, you go, obviously you're not going to see it. This is what drives me crazy, because these are the people that should understand these things, and they attack me they just dismiss me, and not attack me. They dismiss me because I'm an idiot and I can't understand that you can't see an electron. I'm not the idiot here. You can see an electron with a cell phone. They radiate. And if the intensity is like this, no problem seeing them whatsoever. That's exactly what I showed. A nuclear fission is a nuclear reaction. Now, we're subnuclear. We're into the photon crushing range. This says a nuclear reaction is which a heavy nucleus, where we don't have the heavy nucleus, we're using electrons basically attached, two of them back to back, as a photon. A nucleus is a minimum, a hydrogen is like 1,854 of the electrons. We're using 2 electrons. So they're using a heavy nucleus to split simultaneously on impact with another particle with the release of energy. Well, we did this on the sub-nuclear level. We're in the photonic fission range. Okay, all these particles are the same particles, only apparently the spin is what creates the intensity, how fast they spin. The green looks exactly like the red. All right, now here's the key to the whole thing. The particles coming in are the same particles of light, only they don't have any concussive value until they start to stack up, and then we begin to see them. You see the little particles that look like little Oreo cookies? You see them? Now, what happened here? Here's the Venturi. And we know that they separated at the Venturi. I showed you that. I showed you the black walking away, and I will show you again because you might have missed it, and I don't want you to miss it. And I sometimes think everybody's catching on to this and that, and maybe you're not. I just want you to understand, as light passes through the air, nobody's ever seen this before because nobody's seen reactions through a Venturi. This is the first time. It's just by accident. We didn't set out to do this. It was just more or less of an accident. And then it filled my electron flood theory so nicely that I just couldn't stop. And now I understand light and energy, I think, as well as it could possibly be understood. And it is not understood at all now. They don't understand gravity. They don't understand that the space is completely loaded with these particles, which are particles. They have mass. They have interactions. Space is not a vacuum. There's no such thing as protons, neutrons, all that stuff. So we have to start from scratch again. Every kid that is now a kid, or any adult that is fully educated, is the same now. Because they all got to learn again. Now, if you're fully educated and you think you have a lot of knowledge about this, you probably do. But you have to look at it in a new light. All right? The kids coming up, they're starting from scratch. They should be able to pick up on this in minutes. It's so simple, it's unbelievable. So here it comes in, the light's coming in. It's finally starting to take on some definition where we can actually see it as particles. Then the particles stack up as little boxes. Then the box starts to create flares up and down because it's being crushed, and the magnetic fields are starting to split up. It goes up and down. And here they just explode into nothingness, and the black ball gets expelled from the white mass. The white mass gets sucked through the Venturi. All right, I know I've shown this a number of times. I just want to be sure you fully understand it. That was the particle, that black and white ball, back to back, which is a photon. Photons bounce off of you. Half of one of those. In other words, the particle looked like this. If there was just that much, that's an electron. That will burn into you because it wants to attach to more electrons. When you have two of them together, they normally will bounce off of you because they're already sort of together, and they're nothing but a ball of magnetism surrounding it. So when that hits something, it usually bounces off. In this case, because of the Venturi and the acceleration, it doesn't bounce. It turns into white showers. These are the black balls that surround it, and then they come smashing back in out here. This is where we can harvest free energy. If I could just get somebody from Fermilab to discuss this with me, we could have, well, hold on a second. I did all this. This was my final paper about the fact that there was no possibility of there being a positive core. It had to be a dipole. Now, this is, let's get this down here. I'm trying to finish up on the electron flood theory, and this talks about the electron neutrino and muon neutrino. Back to back, they make a photon, and everything is pushing and shoving of the white particles. These are the pullers. The black ones are the pullers. Now, this right here is what we can do for free energy. We can do this literally within a couple of weeks, a month or so, tops. You can have these on a shelf for creating free energy because we have increased the value of this particle of energy. We need to get free energy. What is free energy? Increase what you started with without doing anything. That makes it free. That was the light. This is the increase. We did nothing but create a Venturi here, two round cylinders, force the light to concuss through it. If we could harvest it here just like a solar panel, we could increase this value approximately 200 times. That would give us enough energy to come back and keep this continuously feeding and be able to draw off some excess to do whatever we wanted with it. That is free. This is enclosed, encapsulated, cannot run away. We're only dealing with the smallest particles they are. When they hit you, they won't hurt you, and you keep them enclosed in a box. They will never get out of that box. There'll be no expansion of the gases like we are creating right now with carbon dioxide and every other gas. Anything that was solid and we combust it, it turns into gases. It obviously gets huge. That's what's causing our envelope of gases around our planet to scrub the not vacuum of space, creating enormous interactions and turmoil and rain and storms and lightning, and all of that stuff is because our outer atmosphere is scrubbing the atmosphere of space. It's coming at us. It's forcing those particles down 2,700 degrees around the outside of our planet, way out there. Why is that? It should be cold. No, it's because it's crushing against the particles, and we're moving through that. We're on an arm of the galaxy, first of all, being pulled like crazy through everything in front of us. Secondly, we're spinning like this, trying to catch the sun, which is on its way through the galaxy as well, and all of us are spinning around trying to catch up to it. So we got that scrub, we got the pull scrub, we got all kinds of things scrubbing against our atmosphere, creating our envelope of heat. It is not that the gases cannot escape because of CO2. That's nonsense. And if they were to seed, there's certain things they can do to make the water molecules in the air sort of more fluidy, yes. However, if they put particles in space thinking that they're going to block the light, all they're going to do is create more scrub, which will create more heat. I'm going to tell you what, right now, we got to look into 5G, because 5G is nothing more than a gigantic evaporator. An evaporator means that the water molecules that are just in a watery form turn into gases. That's another expansion. It's just as bad as burning coal, if not worse. Okay, this is Fermilab. This is Don Lincoln. He seems like a nice guy. I think he's trying to do the best he can with what he's got, but he's following the company line, drawing all the doodles. And again, I had doodles coming out of my ears for years and years, and not a single one of them makes sense. If you think you can make sense out of this, some of the stuff makes sense. You bounce particles back and forth against each other. Yes, I can do it. But once you start drawing all these little squiggly little doodles, it just makes people say, oh, he must be smart. Look at how good he can doodle. Well, that means nothing to me. I'm sorry, Don. It means nothing. I am showing you the actual events occurring, real time in front of your face, for years and years and years. You don't respond. That's not a good sign. And Kirsty Duffy and you both, I know, have been demeaning me, is my feeling. Now, maybe I could be wrong, but I saw you acting like a drunk robot, saying that there's some guy on the internet saying he can accelerate light and see muons and photons, and boy, he's crazy. And, basically, I saw that. There's no question you did that. Now, were you talking about me? No idea. Kirsty Duffy came out the next day and said, if there's anybody on the internet says that they can see muons, they're liars. Well, I just showed them to you. So it's time for you guys to do your job and just contact me and say, what are you talking about, Roger? You're crazy because of this, this, and this. You could do these things in minutes over there with the facilities you have. I have not the capability that you have, my friend. So I would certainly appreciate, in the interest of humanity, to get a hold of me. All right, please. Okay, again, 100% of what I just showed you, I sent to literally everybody that had any possible chance of helping me, and not a single one did. So I don't mean to be disrespectful to anyone, and I can be extremely respectful, but I need to have a voice. That's all I'm asking for. And if I'm wrong, I could be wrong, but what I'm seeing is exactly what CERN has asked for, and I think I have presented it in much better detail than anybody else has. And I believe, and I know that I did, like I say, I went to the University of Geneva. I showed them this stuff. Nobody said, oh, you're wrong. They just said, we'll follow you on Facebook or YouTube. I can't remember. It was years ago. And And apparently they did, because they move very, very slowly in these circles, because they are not allowed to speak outside of what the little doodles talk about. Now, that way they're suppressed. Basically, and I'm not suppressed. Nobody's going to suppress me. I'm going to speak my mind. I don't care what it's about. And I talk about things that freak people out, so they put me in a box away in the woods somewhere. Well, it's not you're not doing your job when you treat somebody like that has evidence. And I am be treated like that for 10 years, with evidence that exceeds everybody else on the planet. Not a single scientist, none, zero, can stand in front of me and make the statements that they've made about geology, about physics, about energy, even about biology, even about medicine. Not a single one. And they don't even speak about what their research results indicated, even in the midst of this COVID. Let me show you something about why you should be taking probiotics and who recommends it, and why we have never heard a single syllable about it during this pandemic. Why? Why? All right, this is the National Institute of Health. This just came out a couple of months ago, March of 2021. Probiotics in prevention and treatment of COVID-19. What are the current perspective and future prospects? I read the whole thing, and they talk about trying to flatten the curve and how to keep people from getting infected and how to stop the really serious invasions, the acute respiratory distress and all that. Let's just come right down to the conclusions, because it's very good. Now, here's the conclusions. Evidence supports probiotics' role in regulating the immune system, suggesting a definitive, which means 100% certain role for probiotics in viral infections. Well, COVID is viral. Probiotic supplementation could reduce the severity of COVID-19 morbidity and mortality. Not my words. Probiotics can inhibit cytokine storms by simultaneously boosting your normal innate immune system, and by doing that, they evade the challenge of responding quickly to that viral onslaught, because we've never experienced this COVID. It's what they call a novel disease, so we have no immunities. So you got to get ahead of this thing. That's why you should get vaccinated, and then the vaccination will tune up your immune system a little bit. But you got to take your probiotics. That's what I'm not saying you have to. Do whatever you want. I am not an expert. I'm not a doctor. I don't know anything about anything. I just talk about things. All right. Probiotics induce suppression of the inflammatory cytokine response, may prevent both the severity and the occurrence of acute respiratory distress syndrome, making probiotics an attractive adjunct, which means an add-on to whatever else you're doing, which is, at this point, I don't think anything, or except the vaccine. So anyway, at the bottom, it just comes down to they're not doing any randomly controlled trials to demonstrate the conclusive evidence. However, currently there are no controlled trials. Why? Why are they not checking? And they say that it could. Many clinical trials are underway globally I can't find any that are, even the one that they did, the National Institute of Health. I can't find any results for it. It was over a year ago, and if it concluded 4 months ago, still no results. So we could find this out in a matter of weeks or months if this is going to help, and it will. In my mind, who I'm not an expert, I'm not giving any advice, but I can tell you this right now. I have 113,000 people on my YouTube channel now. And I've been recommending these for years. And the people that have been taking them have been sending me thank yous. I haven't had anybody send me and say, "Oh, you've been talking about probiotics and now I'm sick." No, not one single one. And if you are that single one, or you are multiples of ones, please indicated in the comments. That's all. I'm just a talker. I don't say do this, do that. But when I see something, especially like this, they're the ones that recommend it, not me. And I posted about this, and I probably get banged again for this. I don't know. Because I posted about this, and I got a week off from YouTube. They said, no, and they gave me a strike. That means if I do it again 2 more times, I lose my channel completely. And all I'm doing is saying this is what National Institute of Health said. I didn't say anything other than that. And they said, no, apparently I'm not a doctor or whatever. I don't know. I know I said in there that I'm a researcher. That's all I do is research. And they took it off. And I protested. I said, no, go and look at this up. Nope, sorry, you avoided our rules. So all I'm saying is if you do your own little research and you look up what probiotics do for you, I can't find anything negative. And I find things like this all over the place that have just been downplayed. Why, I don't know. But I can tell you right now, if you've heard one single word from Biden or anybody in the health system that says, take probiotics, I'd like to hear it. I'd like to see where they say it. Not a single word that I can find. Zero, none, nada. Does not exist. No talk about probiotics whatsoever, even though the National Institute of Health says, oh yeah, they help. They can flatten the curve. And they say, give them to everybody that's involved. This is not my words. Here's what it says. Therefore, supplementation of these probiotics in high-risk people, severely ill patients, so you can give them to a severely ill patient and high risk, it was not going to hurt them, is what they're saying, not me, and frontline healthcare workers. You want to give them to them so they don't get other people infected. It might limit the infection and flatten the COVID-19 curve. However, they're not doing any random control trials. That's your health department for you. That's the people that are giving you advice what to do, or not advice what to do. They're just saying go get vaccinated. And I don't disagree with that. But if you don't have your probiotics in your gut, again, my feelings, I'm not a doctor, but if you don't have your gut probacteria working well, you're never going to be healthy. I don't care how many shots you get. You're still going to be, you probably end up being a long hauler because you're still open to invasion. And you think you're cured. No, you're not. And the kids are the ones that are really in trouble because they are strong enough not to present serious complicating conditions until they get real serious, and then they're coming into the ICU. Now, what are the conditions that you should look for? Skin rashes, COVID toe, red toes. Skin rashes, COVID toe. That means that the little fibers, well, see, again, I shouldn't be saying this because I'm not a doctor. So, forget everything I said. Please, Facebook, or anybody, just don't take me off anymore. All I am is a researcher. I'm not trying to hurt anybody. I'm trying to help people. And it's a tough job. I'm telling you right now. You want to come out with truth, you better have... I don't know what you can do anymore to present truth. I really don't. It's unbelievable. Okay, I'm just going to leave it at this. Everybody's fighting about COVID and vaccines and no vaccines and all this crazy stuff. I can tell you what. If you get COVID, you're in trouble. If you have underlying immune conditions, which means you don't have the right bacteria, because the right bacteria in your mucous membranes should protect you from serious invasion. I'm not saying it'll protect you from getting sniffles and cold and feeling terrible. No. But from dying, probably. If you have good gut bacteria, which I'm talking about the CDC, the National Institute of Health, not my words. They say it helps. That's all I'm going to say. Now, nobody's talking about the gut bacteria. That's the key. This is killing me, absolutely killing me. Because it's been a year now that I've been really upset about this. That why isn't anybody talking about this? Why won't they speak about the gut bacteria? It's completely understood. So you should be pushing this around, talking to people about it, and just asking, well, what's the story here? And, like again, I want anybody on my channel everybody so far has been telling me, oh, thanks for telling me about the probiotics because I feel so much better and I haven't been sick. And that's basically what I have heard. Now, if you have been, I really, really, really want you to tell me what it is. What happened? How sick did you get? How are you better now? Are you a long hauler, or did you just get a little sick and get better, or did you get terribly sick? I want to know these things. I'm a researcher. I'm not telling you to do anything. I just want to find out, are these as effective as they appear to be? It's my bottom line. And if they block me for asking these questions, I just can't even imagine this is America anymore. I'm serious. I got blocked last time for just asking. All I mentioned was if we could do our own little trial of, just what I'm asking for now. Who got sick and who didn't? Are you taking probiotics? Are you not taking probiotics? Last word.